I mean, we're just careening through the universe, our galaxy, at like hundreds of miles per second. And we can see almost 14 billion light years in every direction. But there's still no tool or method to get a glimpse or a sense of the size, scope, scale, and mass of whatever is pulling us in that direction so incredibly quickly. Holy smokes. What is up, everybody? I hope you're having a wonderful time. My name is Ethan. I go by Lord Ethan, and I am an Overwatch collegiate varsity coach of coming up on 6 years. Today, we have a really nice treat for us. This is actually going to be some Metal Ranked gameplay, and this is going to be a player called Akin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It could be Akin, I guess, because that's the actual English word. Anyways, their notes read out that I used to play tank a lot in Overwatch 1. I got pretty high, plat, almost diamond. I don't enjoy playing tank as much in the 5v5 format. I am enjoying DPS a lot so far, even though sometimes it can be hard when I do really well but still lose. And ooh, I get that. I played some games like that just the other day. That felt like that. They also mention regarding this particular match, in the link I sent, just this replay code, I felt suffocated. Like, no matter what I tried to do, I kept dying. I'm wondering what I can do in those situations. Usually I switch around a bunch, hoping to find something that works, I imagine, in terms of hero, which I know is not great. It can be. But I'd like to get better at adapting my playstyle. And that right there is, I think, like, where we get to a really important idea. Is like the idea of like counter picking versus counter playing, right? And I'm sure that that those are some awesome, fun buzzwords to use for coaches. But essentially, it's actually a very simple idea. If Overwatch 2 abides by two core principles, those being timing and map control, and we play the game according to rule sets, right? The character rule set, the compositional rule set, and the matchup rule set. I've gone over those in other videos. Then those rules help us play in line with those two core principles. Again, that's timing and map control. And if that's the case, then sometimes adjusting the way that we are playing our character, right, and those rules, is absolutely more than enough to start finding advantages that help us make the best possible decisions for the one fight that usually matters the most. Alternatively, changing our characters and swapping around a bunch, it can be bad. But the important thing to realize is that I'm swapping my characters to not necessarily like find a solution or scratch and claw at what I think I know I should be doing, but rather this character has a playstyle or a rule set or an accommodation or a strength, weakness, advantage, disadvantage, whatever, that helps me align better with, you guessed it, timing and map control. Let's get into it. This is Akin on the Colecast. This is a Gold 3 rated game, actually. So this one is going to be really interesting. There's going to be a lot that's happening all over the place, and we're just going to try and stick to the fundamentals, make things really easy. So I really like this poke. Just be mindful that we really only have a certain amount of time that we're going to be allowed to play any position. What we're going to see here in this lobby is teams really slowly but surely lurch through these choke points, and what we want to do when we're on attacking phases is we want to get to the side of the map that is good, right, as soon as possible, i.e. don't spend time in chokes. Worst place to spend any amount of time in any first-person shooter, honestly, any video game ever. You just never spend time in chokes. So the longer they spend in the choke, the worse it's going to be for them, and the kind of, the more damage you're going to be able to accrue over time up here. However, in higher rated lobbies, they're going to want to push us off this high ground. So even if we don't get pressured up here, it's still worth considering. I only have about 8 to 12 seconds to play any one position. Depending on the lobby, we definitely have a little longer to play for fight phases in lower rated lobbies. But we can see eventually the D.Va does come up on the right decision, forces you out, and we actually take a ton of damage. In fact, even forcing cooldowns from our Baptiste that I would honestly recommend we save for ourselves. That is, the Baptiste player should be lamping himself and not our hero Akin here, right? And so we still haven't even regenerated the damage that we took. Did we need to take that damage? Did we need to hold that high ground so fiercely? I think that there's also like little movement mistakes that I would love to go back over if this were like a full block VOD review. But unfortunately, we gotta keep these playing just because it's such a limited time. I actually have to go to bed here soon because I've got work at 6 a.m. Tomorrow. So I'm already I'm already limit testing here. I like those shots, those connections. We do end up just out in the middle of the open, just a little bit too long, venturing back towards the point when we could alternatively go towards this health pack, try to come up the stairs and take high ground. You know, if you wander up here while they're trying to control the objective, you may actually even force them off the objective, and that's one less person on the point, one less person contesting, one more angle that you can have, one more duel that you're taking instead of looking at 3 people, which is exactly how we died. Was, you know, it was a 1v3, right? Because we're on the point. It's not necessarily, I mean, we do want to contest the point, but our job there is to live, right? We want to play Overwatch for advantages. So definitely look for advantages there, right? My team is dead, but I'm still alive, but I'm still near a mega, but I'm still unchallenged, but I'm still unmarked, but I'm still unscouted, but I still have my ult, or I'm close to my ult. Speaking of, by the way, the policy is if we have it, use it. I don't anticipate that that's going to be a problem in this lobby. Normally, it's actually uncommon for my metal ranked players to hold on to their ults the same way that I see Diamond Masters GM players holding on to their ults, because like, oh man, I want to get a perfect ultimate. Like, doesn't matter, rip it, right? So I'm really looking for us to have an opportunity, or to use the opportunity to rip this ult. Looks like we're going to hold on to it a little bit. The secret is to, at 80% to your ultimate, you're thinking only about your ultimate. Generate the rest, and you just use it as quickly as possible. If you have it, use it. Obviously, fighting into a diva isn't really going to be a conducive way to get value out of your ult. Now, if you ult so that you force her to hold defense matrix for 4 seconds in your face while the rest of your team does something, that's actually not a net negative. However, as soon as you see the diva in your face, you have the option of, and this is a fun principle, I call it fucking off, but that's a little bit crass. The idea is you have the authority, agency, and right to just turn around and walk away and get to the high ground. Those stairs back there, these stairs, either staircase over here, you could swing wide over here and force them to have to look at you or look at this angle, right? A diva can't defense matrix both angles simultaneously, right? So you could even play a little bit of spacing, sacrifice a little bit of your effective range for a little bit of a decision that she's going, or her team is going to have to make there, all right? I like unpeaking there just so that you don't get caught by the bomb. You know, there's no, I mean, it's not as if we shouldn't, right? We definitely should, but it's not as if there is a need for you to, it's not as if your only option there is to trust that your Reinhardt player holds shield, right? You are still responsible for living, and there's no way to know that it's not going to break, so I do like that discipline. Rip the ult. Oh my gosh, rip the ult. We got to find a way to use it. Turn around, go up high ground, rip the ult on the ER here because the Diva's now tangled up with your Reinhardt, and the Deadeye gives you damage mitigation, which would help you with a little bit of that ER damage. It would absolutely help you body any of the follow-up or the detonation that occurs if you take damage afterwards. The damage mitigation ramps down while speed ramps up over the course of Deadeye's duration, and I like that. Oh, you should have shot your gun instead of going for the cool Overwatch ability. That's pretty antithetical to what I'm normally saying. I'm normally saying use your cool Overwatch abilities before trying to engage in neutral gunplay, but your crosshair was right over her head there, so that was really, really cool. It's a little bit higher on the crosshair discipline as well, probably. Just like a tiny, tiny bit higher. Okay, we're looking for an opportunity to rip our ult. And scouting is going to be important. Knowledge is power, right? But we don't have to, like, venture too far forward here. If we are, then we definitely have to be ready to use our ult. We're going to combat roll out instead, and I think I'm okay with that, right? And we end up with some nice shots afterwards. That's perfect. Walk forward a little bit to dodge that nade there. And then good duel. Yeah, I don't really know how much I care for the peek there, and then the right click is really challenging. We're walking forward to land shots that we can land reliably at range, right? That we've already seen you landing shots reliably, and don't get me wrong, I do this. I'm doing this in my low diamond rated DPS games as I continue to careen down towards platinum because I refuse to play the game correctly or at its tempos, right? Abiding by the timing and map control that are specific to the scenarios that I'm encountering in these low diamond lobbies, right? But don't do that. Don't walk forward to land shots that you could just as easily land at range there. So walking out of spawn, we still haven't used Deadeye. Remember, the policy is if I have it, I must use it as early as possible. If I don't have a reason to use it, I have to find one, and if I can't find a reason, I have to make one. Go through all of my other replay codes or all of my other VOD reviews, and I actually kind of lay out the same framework there, and also have some really excellent opportunities to talk about ults that, you know, are a little too early, a little too late, a little too selfish, so on and so forth. You know, this is a long disengagement, and I think I'm okay with this. Honestly, I'd probably still rip your ult here. Again, it buys you damage mitigation. You start slow and then start moving faster. You would force them to make a decision. Usually when you're making Overwatch players choose between a good and a bad choice, they're going to end up choosing the bad one. Maybe they just leave you alone after you Deadeye. They say, oh, well, we got the Cassidy ult out, right? Now we won't mess around. Or you even increase the timer that it takes for them to kill you. I would rip the ult there, yeah, definitely. Because at this point, like, I've just been sitting on it too long. And it's really unfortunate that I've gotten staggered the way that I am. I would actually really love to go back through and look at this VOD in detail, because there's actually a lot of like pathing errors. We haven't at any point, like literally at no point, this entire objective, besides this little one small segment here where we're playing the high ground. But like this is also like 20% of the map, right? This is 20% of the map. This is 20% of the map, right? This is and this are 20% of the map, right? I'm asking you to play over here, to get into the Snacks Ramos. Oh my goodness, I'm begging players to use this space. It's a whole section of the map, and it has a health pack, which is just absolutely bonkers that it goes as sorely underutilized as it does. I'm asking you to head over into the Nexus experience, go into the Heroes Arcade, play above it, right? If you're on long-range characters, feel free to operate this right side, go through the tunnel over here, use the map. It will help you. It will give you angles, it will give you better timings, it will help you avoid some of the spam damage and some of these frustrating staggers where like, well, I just got back out here and I'm already dying again. It will give you the earliest and correspondingly usually the best opportunities to, a little unfortunate that we lose our Winston there, but that's okay. Nothing that a Deadeye can't compensate for, even if it means that the Diva's running up and holding DM in my face for 4 whole seconds, because Deadeye's duration does outlast the Matrix. You can actually just sit there and play a game of glorified chicken with her, as long as the rest of her team is occupied and they're not only shooting you, which is usually easiest to do if you are playing the best positions for your character at the best, at the most optimal times, right? Such as when your tank is engaged, so most of them are looking at your tank. Go for the Deadeye here, right? Instead of taking the damage early. So this is really important. I've talked about this in some of my other videos. It's not super pertinent here. So I call it damage taken timings. It's just like, when are you taking damage, and is it at a time when you want to speed up or slow down? And if you are taking damage at a time when you want to be speeding up, damage is going to slow you down. So the important thing is, don't take damage, right? If you know that you can't afford to peak for a couple of more seconds, then feel okay with not peaking, right? The same way that we have to feel okay with, you know, running off and doing our own thing. Go for the ult here. Oh man, I just don't know what's keeping us from ripping our ult. Not to mention the fact that like Deadeye is the worst ult in the game. Not really. But it's pretty low down there. And so there's no reason not to rip it, right? So maybe you could make an argument that like, okay, Dead is a bad ult, you know, I can just win via neutral, although that's certainly not quite the narrative here. But I just rip it. This is a good Deadeye, but it's not even a good Deadeye because of like the value that it gets, right? They aren't losing the fight yet. We had to trade our tank. We're now down our resources late in a late fight phase, right? In this fight, right? How long has this fight gone before we actually finally started getting picks? And how many resources did our team collectively lose by the time we got those picks in the late stage of a fight that they had already begun to win in the form of early advantages established in the earlier phases of the fight? Hopefully that word slot makes sense, and I'm not going to dig into macro at this time. Unfortunately, on this channel, there's just not enough time to dig into macro, and honestly, that's going to be something that we could look at with things like paid team bookings and things like that, or even like you know, honestly, it's a really good discussion for a full block, you know, for someone who's looking to understand either how to VOD review themselves, or how to VOD review in general, or even to understand a little bit better, like, you know, okay, how did I lose this? Outside of just like the things that I could have done better. Here, for the most part, on the channel, we're focused on the things that we can do better, right? Can't control our teammates, and we can communicate with our teammates, although my opinion is that is generally a like highly lost cause. I wouldn't join voice chat. I wouldn't have text chat enabled. I would literally just play the game with no form of communication, because it is very challenging to communicate with Overwatch players, all the way up to, I mean, gosh, all the way up to mid-GM. It is very challenging. So, High Masters games are kind of fun because there you get players who are actually like some really excellent commerce. But even then, like it's actually such a crapshoot, like whether or not you're actually going to get a team that wants to win with their communication alone, which is often how teams in low GM need to win, because they're often going up against players that are much better than them, and against whom you can only build advantages if you're communicating with the other players on your team who help you build advantages, right? Hopefully the English words that I'm throwing around and what may seem like random orders, again, hopefully those make sense. In any case, there's a lot going on in these fights, but there's also not enough happening like early on. Our tank is taking a ton of damage, soaking up a lot of resources. I don't really notice that we're getting a ton of care from our team as well. We're having to push pretty deep. I'm known to say it's always safer in than out, but actually we've gone in at times that I think are a little less advantageous for us. And so there's kind of a lot happening, and also kind of a lot, kind of like not enough happening. But I would say for that first round, it's really just about letting rip on that ult so that you can constantly be generating your next ultimate, playing a little bit more of that map, and then being really sensitive to like when we're taking damage. That is like really important. You should really only ever take the damage in Overwatch that you can reasonably justify. And look, are you going to go through Overwatch like auditing yourself the entire time? Like, oh, that was 78 damage from the Juno at 23 meters away. Oh my goodness. Well, if I take a second point of damage after that, that's going to be unacceptable. Let me make sure no, right? But we do all of this computing in our heads, and we're listening to music and chatting with our friends at the same time. And like, honestly, like just think about what damage you're taking and when. And before you peek an angle that you know enemies are operating, ask yourself, am I about to take damage that I can't justify? I call this scouting with our brain, right? What do you hear? What do you see them on? When you press and hold tab, do you see heroes? And if you see heroes, right, you see the Sojourn and the Emery, where do you think they're going to play? But on the high ground, right? So you don't even need to peek to know where they are. And if you don't even need to peek to know where they are, then you can probably sit here on a corner watching spam travel down, watch your tank walk in, know that your tank is going to start soaking up aggression, walk in afterwards, and then 2-tap the Emery who's shooting your tank because that was the only target to shoot at that time. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's continue. There are no major takeaways. It's a little bit of everything, but I say that in every VOD review. I do like taking the high ground here, and I like these shots on Emery. Nice, beautiful, absolutely remarkable. Just take your time between your shots. You know, make sure that the shots you go for, are the shots you cast, are the shots you're going to land. You don't have to have like pristine, high, super great accuracy. You know, Overwatch really boils down more to, timing and map control. Shots hit is not a core principle in Overwatch. Now, with timing and map control, you're going to get your cleanest shots, your most accessible mechanical outputs. But this is still excellent. I'm not a huge fan of dropping from the high ground for no reason, especially if it's to close the distance on a target who is already playing within our effective range. However, that's a nice pick. I think you're more than entitled to us saying, it's all right. It's all right that we dropped off the high ground. So that's a-okay. Just a little note here, they've changed their composition, worth holding the tab key and thinking to myself, okay, you know, they're on the Maga now, right? So I'm going to be careful about, if I get lit on fire, I am helping him build ult even faster, right? However, my team is going to shoot him because he's a massive target, so I want to make sure that I'm poking him down. I want to be doing it at my effective ranges. We're a little bit too close. Is the plan maybe to be this close because we plan to round the corner and go for our ult? No. Instead, we round the corner, taking... By the way, scouting with our brains, if I turn a corner that their Maga's operating, right? If their Maga's at this corner, odds are is that they have 4 people behind the Maga either shooting at the Maga or shooting whatever he's going to shoot, because that's how you play this composition, right? Rules of the matchup, right? And so, or actually, rather, it's their rules of the composition. It's the rules of the comp, but for them. And so if you're rolling around this corner, if you're rounding this corner that a Maga is looking at, right? There's going to be 4 other people that are looking at this angle, and that means you have to to damage mitigate the, to mitigate the damage that you're going to take here, and to make yourself a scary target. Divide their attention. Now Maga's shooting at you, and they've stopped healing him. They're dodging. You've got one person running for cover. You got one person shooting you. You got the Maga shooting you. That's people who aren't shooting your tank. That's time for your supports to apply resources to your tank. Or even, my DPS player has rounded a corner like an absolute Nimrod, king of the hunters, stepping out to claim final blows with the Deadeye. And I either have to nano that or watch my cast die. Now, unfortunately, we live in an era where Ana players really generally aren't nanoing their DPS players. And if it sounds like I have a chip on my shoulder, it's because I do. Nano more than just the tank. I'm going to make a video on that here pretty soon, by the way. Ana players, you better be on the lookout. I'm watching you guys. Nano your DPS players and your other support, as well as your tank. The tank is the best target to nano. So maybe you get a nano here, right? Because your Ana sees that you're going for something, right? Maybe if you're calming, which you shouldn't, especially if you're in any rank below GM. Hey, maybe you're calming, right? You're saying, hey, I'm going to Deadeye, 3, 2, 1, nano me, right? So yes, Deadeye. Oh, and it's unfortunate. It's a little. I think it's a little unlucky that like the advice ends up like being something so straightforward as like use your ult, right? But like using your ult leads to other things, right? If you're using your ult, then we also have to ask like how are you generating your ult? If we're asking how are you generating your ult, we're asking what angles are you taking? What times are you dying? What are your fight uptime? What is your fight uptime looking like? And are you building ult because you are playing at the best possible times, or are you building ult because you're just running it down, inting onto their core, getting as much ult charge before you die, and setting your team at a permanent 4v5 disadvantage, right? There are other questions that we can ask, but we haven't been able to get to that point because we aren't ulting. We're also closing distance against a target that is playing out of that is still playing within our effective range. And honestly, if he wants to F off, right, let him. absolutely. It's not about picks. It is about pressure, right? So you've applied your pressure. You've forced him off this angle. You've taken this high ground. I like that we opt out here, but isn't it interesting? If Overwatch 2 boils down to two principles, timing and map control, then it's interesting that we take this control of the map as he yields this control of the map. We greed for control over the angle that gives us the damage onto him. That timing doesn't end up getting used to do damage. Unfortunately, we missed some of our shots, and I think that there's a whole litany of reasons for that. It might be, hold on. We'll go back. Normally, I don't like to go back through these, all right. Yeah, the jump messes up a little bit there. Our movement is messing up our aim a little bit, and then also we aren't taking time into between our starts. So like we're just thinking kill, right? But again, not about picks. It's about pressure. You take the map control. He recedes down this angle. You don't have to peek him. You can hold your angle, right? Because you don't want to lose the mark on him. You don't want to just be like, okay, now I can play as if he doesn't exist, right? You still want to apply your pressure, right? But you can hold your crosshair over here and just count down 3, 2, 1 on the timeline that you know he's going to peek because you know that he's going to peek you, right? I mean, don't you know he's going to peek you? And if you don't know that he's going to peek you, then like why take this duel, right? And if you know that he's going to peek you, then absolutely take the duel, but don't take the duel so far into his angle, right? His map control is that he is looking for you to peek, and that is exactly how this DPS duel mind game ends up playing. Because he waits for you to peek and you do so on a timeline that he's able to shoot you, he connects some really excellent shots that he doesn't need mechanical proficiency to output for, right? You need to land the hard shots here, right? But these are hard shots, right? So, if Overwatch 2 boils down to two principles, timing and map control, it's interesting that this is a timeline or a timing where we aren't able to apply damage, where we get damage dealt to us, and where Iari is able to shift up to the high ground, probably from cooldown. Yeah, literally everything on cooldown. But it's on a timer where Iari shifts up to the high ground, and we happen to be low enough HP that she's able to kill us while she's 56 HP. Timing and map control. That's what that looks like. I wouldn't know necessarily how to more explicitly outline it. So huge shout out to Akin, our not for long, by the way, our gold 3 rated Cassidy player, because I really like these shots. You just got to set yourself up better for these. And honestly, oh my god, at any point there, you should have won one of those duels with a Deadeye, by the way, which is easier to feel more confident in if you haven't taken a bunch of damage before you Deadeye. So how about you Deadeye before taking the damage? That insight alone will push you like through gold into platinum. I'm so absolutely confident, which is why I'm saying it's not very long that our gold 3 hero is going to be a gold rated Cassidy. And if that is the case, then huge shout out to our soon to be platinum rated Cassidy hero for giving me an opportunity to really explicitly define and demonstrate what the core principles of Overwatch look like when you are operating them at a loss. Oh, I like this song. It's called Brave Vow. It's produced by Hoyo Mix. I'm a gacha addict. It's bad. It's bad. I like Genshin Impact. Mostly the music. The world building is good. The villains are excellently written, up until the point they become main character simps. One of them's actually slick, though. I really like Il Dottore. Every day, I align closer and closer to the worldview of my goat king, Il Dottore. Except for the whole inhuman cruelty. That's a little bit gross. All right. Let's see if we ult this fight. Sorry, that's me being mean. I'm so sorry. I'm a rude piece of subhuman garbage at 1 a.m. So that's all. Even despite listening to tracks that I really like. Be careful closing the distance onto targets against whom we are that we can already be comfortable shooting. I like rolling past the Sojourn, so we say for in then out. These are wow. Hey, by the way, mechanical output. That is some really impressive like close range aiming. I am impressed by that. Deadeye to finish the kill. Deadeye to finish the kill. Deadeye ramps up based on the remaining health or the amount of health that a target has. So if you Deadeye there, you actually, it's like less than 0.5 seconds to lock onto her and kill her. You spend so much less time. I mean, you literally spend like a third amount of time to kill her as you would take to reload. Reload is like what, 1.5 seconds? You would kill her in less than that. And literally, again, a third of the time. So if Overwatch 2 boils down to two principles, timing and map control, isn't it interesting that like you and Sojourn are competing here? I'm going back again so that I can talk for 30 minutes, even though I shouldn't be. Sojourn takes your map control here, right? She manages to take the mega, which is map control. All right. Anyways, She takes the Mega. You guys compete for the map control. You're in her face so that her angle is difficult. This is your advantage, right? And then, like, you have a timer. You have a death timer. You have a time that you have to live before you die. You have a time to kill. You have a time before people come and join their sojourn. You have a time before she gets healing from her team, before their Cassidy walks up, before their, sorry, that's an Emre, right? You have time as cooldowns expire and refresh and cycles begin and fight phases transition. I mentioned the 8 to 12 second window. See my other videos for a little more elucidation on that one, but you have to rip the Deadeye. It helps you play faster. It really helps you play faster, and the faster you can push these matches, not necessarily playing out of tempo with your team. That's why I'm playing in low time, is because I'm trying to play too fast or too slow at any point for my teams that are trying to play a little faster or a little slower than I am. Right? And so you don't want to be out of tempo with your team, but you absolutely do want to adhere to, well, the timeline of Overwatch, of an Overwatch match. And it seems weird to say, you know, hey guys, let's put this match on a timeline, right? But that's something that we gotta do. A little bit unlucky that we can't get through the stroke. So I actually, you know, that's where I actually don't mind the Tracer, right? That helps us get in, right? That helps us get to their side of the map. It helps us be able to navigate through some of these harrowing spaces. I actually don't mind not messing with a Sojourn, although you know, she has you marked this whole time, and I don't know how I feel about us taking the head-on confrontation, right? She has us marked, and then we just dash right at her in the direction that she's looking at us, right? So that's a little disadvantage when it comes to playing Tracer. I think you're definitely liable to get your head taken off just a little bit faster here, and we haven't been able to, like, really blink around or behind them, so there's, oh, yeah, and we're blinking right at our targets, which is really, really scary. See my other Tracer VODs, those are actually, some of those are really, really fun. Some of the old ones are a little bit weird. It took me a little minute to figure out how I was delivering my lines again. Those are some actually really nice picks, nice pressure. Oh, little bit of a mishap with the blink out. We should be blinking. We can blink back for our core. To a health pack. I like that we're hugging a wall here, but we are already marked. We know that we're marked. They know that we're marked, right? And honestly, part of the reason that the traversal into this position is kind of difficult is because, like, I think we're trying to greed just a little bit. You just want to get out. Although I'm really glad that you live there, and I see where the sense is to sit there, hold your corner, wait for your blinks to regenerate. But if you're waiting for your blinks to regenerate, then, like, don't mess around with the Emre, don't shoot him, just mark him, right? Pressure him if he tries to pressure you, and then get out of there, right? If we aren't looking in the direction that we're blinking, then yes, we're gonna hit our back against the wall, and we are so much more liable to die at that point. Yeah, I've gone over this in my other Tracer VODs as well, so I won't spend too much time on it, but you just really don't want to play too close to where the fight is most densely concentrated. So I like this off angle that you took. Not really the blink at the Maga. Doesn't make enough sense to me, especially after you've gotten your advantage, right? So again, if Overwatch 2 is about building advantages and imposing disadvantages and finding ways to compensate for disadvantages or not letting them be applied to you in the first place, right? Then then after you get that pick on the Juno and have casted your ult, by the way, really nice. I didn't call you out on it, but, like, really nice ult cast. In fact, I think that was a I have and use thing. 96. Oh my god. You actually just don't ult on Cassidy because you hate his ultimate. And I'm right with you, but, like, you still gotta use it. Oh my god, yeah, that was like a high I must use. So that was good. I love that ult. It's sad that it doesn't stick, and yeah, it's definitely not our cleanest stick and not our best stick target, right? However, I'm very pleased with that. I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very... you have redeemed yourself in the eyes of the Lord with that ult cast. Or with that ult timing. Again, maybe a little bit better. Way to go for it. But, what was I saying? Talking about forward matchups, playing too concentrated in the fight. Oh, disadvantages and advantages, right? After picking the Juno, don't forfeit your life, right? Your life, you living, rather, is an advantage to your team. Oh, I would just blink. As soon as someone is shooting at me, and this has been my late experience, which is why I react like this, but, like, as soon as someone starts shooting at me, I know that I'm in danger, right? So, it's definitely worth it to just, like, blink across. Oh, we're doing a lot of walking at our opponents. That makes me really, really uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Very, very scary stuff. Very scary stuff. Use your blinks. Use your blinks to traverse the map. Don't be out in the middle of the open, close to the walls, corners, covers. Don't blink directly at our targets. Avoid the head-on confrontations. Use our blinks to finagle around the map. We could have gone for the, we could have gone like all the way around. We could play playing for health packs. I think we're trying to like overcommit here to like damage uptime when again that doesn't really matter. I would think about it like Brig Inspire uptime. Oh man, yeah, is this an advantage, right? To us dying early while the point is still over here, which by the way, I haven't been able to get into this yet in a VOD. I'm really excited for the day that it happens, but there's a relationship between where the point starts, where the objective starts on Payload and Escort, where it starts when the fight starts, and where it ends up when the fight resolves, right? Either favorably or unfavorably for our team. And so for us to die there when the point is still all the way back there, after we've already gotten our pressure, after we've already forced them back to spawn, after we've already created an operable space for our tank to substitute, like, we just don't need to die there. I'm a huge, how would you say, like, I'm a huge fan, but the opposite. I am a huge hater, actually, of dying there. Too greedy. The greed is too steep. It's not about picks, it's about pressure. It's about map control and timing, not about damage and scoreboards and uptime. It's, that's what I was saying about Brig, is, like, it's not about when you're proccing Inspire, it's about what you're proccing it off of, who you're proccing it for, right? I'm sorry, and not about how much Inspire you're proccing, right? Because Brig players like to have 100% Inspire uptime percentage. Dude, you can coast by with 25 as long as you're proccing at the right times. All right. It's probably a comment or two to make on this one, but you know, honestly, by this point, the enough disadvantages are imposed on us that you know, kind of concluding this match favorably for us is going to be incredibly difficult. We should be, instead of fighting and taking damage that's going to slow us down or prevent us from touching because it forces us to use our cooldowns that would be best used for connecting to the objective in an overtime fight phase, right? Either to touch on or first if our team can't make it, or to do follow-up consecutive touches. I have first, okay, I have second touch, right? My Reinhardt can touch first and I can touch after him, which means if we're forced to use our recall, all of our blinks, if we take half of our damage and don't even line up a pulse bomb before we die, because that's potentially our last death, right? We're kind of lucky that the fight lasts long enough for us to get back out and deploy a pulse bomb, right? But we had it earlier, right? So when you have it, you have to use it. And then the other thing is you know, we should just be setting up for touch there, right? So timing and map control, isn't it really nice for the enemy team to duel and kill a tracer at a time when at a time when Tracer might be needed to touch, right? Is that an advantage for me as the defender? Yes, it is. Thank you. Good answer. Good stuff. All right, guys. This one was a blast. And I'm also really glad because some of these lobbies are like absolute messes, and I'm actually glad that this one was pretty straightforward. I didn't have to think too hard, and we also got to cover some really, really good stuff, and also see some, you know, I understand that, like, the comments on this one was from Akin was I felt suffocated. Like, no matter what I tried to do, I kept dying. I'm wondering what I can do in those situations, right? Okay, play your distance, ult when you have it, so that you can you literally relieve pressure off of yourself and move the narrative of the game forward when you ult, okay? And those are a couple of the ways to do it. But if we're looking to not feel suffocated, really, it's going to be everything I cover is going to be important. We stuck to really baseline core fundamentals. Got to talk about some of the specific stuff, but hopefully this is an excellent start for you. Guys, if you are interested in having your VODs reviewed for free on the channel, then feel free to use the link in the description below to submit your replay codes, or you can email this email address, but don't do that. That one's going to be less reliable than the form, because the form links directly to my spreadsheet. For affordable, professional, standard coaching, guys, feel free to DM Lord Ethan on Discord, spelled just like it is up there, just without the coaching, at gmail.com. And we can do full block one-on-one VOD reviews, discussions, team or group VOD reviews, 2-hour scrims, you know, and I'm comfortable with all. Guys, as always, thank you guys so much for watching and for all of the support. I was absolutely astonished to see the subscriber count like jumping up as much and as quickly as it is. I'm really not entirely sure what people are finding special in me, but I'm hopeful that you guys will be able to enable me to continue finding what is special about others. If you're new to the channel, guys, thank you guys so much for sticking around. If you're a regular, I'm so grateful to you guys. If you're a hater, leave a comment. I want to keep you guys around. Oh man, every time I get a comment from a hater, I'm just like, I love that I got a little bit of attention and engagement from this person. So I'm so thankful to you guys, especially. And guys, if you're just along for the ride like myself, then stick around. It's going to be an absolutely unbelievable journey, especially as oh god, I'll have to do an update video here soon. But there's some like really huge changes that that I'm going to be careening through here shortly. It's a destiny that that I cannot avail myself of the same way that all of us will only ever step forward towards our futures, which hopefully for Akin involves a higher ranking. Akin, thank you so much for submitting your replay code for showcasing improvement marking and observation. Hopefully others will find some of the same insight really helpful. So a huge shout out goes to our hero Akin. Guys, as always, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications so that you guys can see the instant that new videos premiere. Remember to be good to each other, be fair to yourselves, and I'll see you guys on the next one.